for, okay, I want to thank everybody for coming on tonight. I'm grateful that we're able to do it on Zoom. This meeting gives us the ability to review the resolutions that came in after we met at the beginning of June. And so that's good. And also I have an update on the office space. And then we'll have follow-up on any outstanding issues. So Kira, why don't we put the first one up, the committee resolutions.
Sure, 1 second. We'll do Parks and ENS first, since that's the most recent.
Yeah, well, we'll do last night's.
Yes.
And then there's another Parks one that I really haven't seen. It just came in.
One moment. Okay, you should all be able to see my screen. Let me just make it more visible. Can everyone see?
Yeah, thank
Yes.
you. Thanks.
Yes. Okay.
Ramdad and I, thanks, Laura. Do you want us to talk about this?
Well, I want to thank you for having the meeting with the agencies, the meeting last night, all the coordination, all the leadership, and back and forth with the agencies on everything from PDC to a host of things, just to coordinate it. And I think that it's a real great piece of work. So go ahead, right ahead. Why don't you speak to it? And then I have some more comments when we're finished.
Yeah. So Ramdad, how you doing, Ramdad? Long time no see. Ramdad and I chaired a meeting last night, our last joint ENS Parks Committee meeting. This was our third on the subject of daylighting and Greenway. And this particular meeting was prompted by the submission of the project to the Public Design Commission. Now I have to announce that at our May meeting, May 25th meeting, we were told by Parks and DEP that they were having a preliminary review, which has a certain different standard for evidence, applications, and also different procedure within PDC. And after they heard about many concerns and areas of interest of Community Board 8, they decided to walk it back to the conceptual level. So I'm just going to read the correspondence from DEP for a minute, so everybody knows. This is the DEP commissioner who's confirmed that they have indeed submitted their application to PDC for a conceptual review. So it is still happening on July 11th. And PDC conceptual reviews are managed at the committee level. There's no vote and they do not take testimony, but they would welcome a CB8 resolution and they will circulate it among the commissioners. Okay, now the next level is preliminary and that has voting, but this is the conceptual. So this is going to be submitted to our full board next week for consideration as our contribution to the conceptual review. So I will just read it. Ramdad, would you mind if we just read along? You can see the voting there.
Sure.
Whereas the joint New York City Department of Environmental Protection and Department of Parks and Recreation are submitting their design, daylighting of Tibbetts Brook and construction of a greenway between Hester and Piers Mill Pond, St. Cortlandt Park and West 230th Street to the New York City Public Design Commission for conceptual level review on July 11, 2022. Whereas DEP and DPR presented, I have to make some changes. I'm sorry about this. Presented their design for the daylighting of Tibbetts Brook and Putnam South Greenway to a joint meeting of Bronx Community Board 8, Environment and Sanitation and Parks and Recreation Committees on December 17th, and presented the same, the newly titled submission, okay, in quotes again, which will be submitted to the PDC for conceptual review to a joint meeting of Bronx CB8, ENS, and Parks and Rec Committees on May 25th. Whereas Bronx CBH 197A plan adopted by the City Planning Commission and the City Council of 2003 proposed including reuse of the old abandoned Putnam Rail line right of way south of Van Cortlandt Park as an opportunity for the creation of a new multi-purpose linear open space in Kingsbridge. And whereas in October 12th, 2010, this board voted to approve a ULURP application by DPR to amend the city map in order to establish two things: a park running generally alongside the Major Deegan Expressway between 230th and Van Cortlandt Park South, and a park addition to Van Cortlandt Park between Van Cortlandt Park South and the Bronx-Westchester County line, and to authorize acquisition of real property. Whereas on May 13th, 2014, Bronx CBA passed a resolution adopting the Van Cortlandt Park Master Plan, which presented conceptual plans to construct a mixed-use greenway, utilize green infrastructure and daylight Tibbetts Brook inside Van Cortlandt Park and along the proposed Putnam South Greenway. Whereas Bronx CBA unanimously passed resolutions on April 12th, 2016. This is pursuant to the ULURP. April 19th, 2017, supporting daylighting. February 13th, 2018, endorsing their combination in strong support of the Putnam Greenway and daylighting of Tibbetts Brook, citing their unique recreational and economic and environmental benefits. And whereas the representatives Community Board 8 attended meetings of the newly formed Tibbetts Advisory Group on those dates, March 10th and April 19th, and a site visit on April 21st. Okay, thanks everybody for bearing with me. Therefore, be it resolved, Bronx Community Board 8 supports the concept and goals of the DEP and DPR submission, daylighting of Tibbetts Brook and the construction of Greenway. And that is the subject of conceptual review of the New York City Public Design Commission on July 11th. And be it further resolved that Bronx Community Board 8 receive regular updates from DPR and DEP on design changes to the joint project for the purpose of review and the consideration of new and separate resolutions pursuant to preliminary and final PDC review, as well as from any other agency from which they seek approval. Be it further resolved that Bronx Community Board 8 attaches a statement of design priorities and recommendations to this resolution, which may be updated by the consent of the full board for consultation by DP, DPR, and DOT in the ongoing design process and future design modifications. So, yeah, I guess this is a lot to take in if you're new to the issue. Do I need to walk back the issue a little bit? I'm sorry for launching right into the resolution. Does anybody need a little bit of background on the issue and where we are with green lighting? I'm sorry, green lighting, Greenway and daylight.
Yeah, any questions, discussion on the resolution, which indicates that actually we've already voted on this 4 times on the master plan and the 3 resolutions on basically this plan over the years. Dan, I think you were chair and I was chair of Environment and Sanitation when those resolutions 2016, 17, and 18 went forward.
Dan, I think it was Rosemary in 2018, wasn't it, Dan?
In 2018, it would have been Rosemary. And again, I don't remember the specifics of the resolutions.
Yeah, sure.
But I know I can say I personally have always supported the plan of a daylighting project in Van Cortlandt Park and a park for this CSX Greenway. But I think that's, again, what we're getting at and what the resolution, I believe, is going for is the concept that was presented to us by the 2 agencies. Yeah. Which is a little bit different than just, hey, we like the project.
Right. So that's why there's 3 pages of detail afterwards.
Yep. So I just have, and again, Bob, I know I sent you and Ram an email today, and I want to thank you for your response. And just to kind of update, the exec, so everyone has the same information. I know I'd asked the 2 questions. One, was this submitted, which I know you've already answered by saying you received an email, I guess, today from DEP saying they submitted. And then I asked, right? And then the second question I asked was whether or not the property was purchased yet. Yeah. And I know that you did respond to me. I saw a late email. I did, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. So that's what I'm saying. If you can just update exec on where we're at with that.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, thank you. So I know what you heard, everybody, summer 2022. That's what we were told. That's what was in the minutes that was told at our last meeting. That's as much as I have. Dan, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you earlier.
Oh, no, was there an update? Was that just from the minutes or was that
Um,
from an update today?
No, it's
you-
from May. I think it was from May.
Wait, you know, you had submitted a bunch of questions to DEP and DPR, and then they responded just in the past week.
Yeah,
And that,
right.
okay, in that correspondence,
Oh, that's
I
good.
distinctly remember, because we asked, when is the ink going to dry? When is this happening? And all they committed to was 2022. It will happen in 2022. And I just want to comment that, frankly, Bob, all of us, we were really surprised by the agency's decision to go to PDC in advance of the formal acquisition. On the other hand, we recognize that we have no control over their timeline. And in that Q&A and in what you just read from the coordinator from DEP in the letter, they seem to indicate that PDC is so critical and they want to get an early start. And they obviously have 100% full confidence that this is going to happen. But again, I was surprised
Yeah,
at the
it's
order of this.
frustrating that it's not happened yet. That the sale hasn't happened.
Exactly. But we have to roll with it because we don't control the agency's timeline. And it was very good news that they rolled it back from going for preliminary approval to conception. That means they're lengthening their timeline. They're recognizing all the challenges that they face. And one other comment, because I was thinking about this today. I think that we have to recognize that since the 2010 ULURP was passed by this board, there's been major retail development on Broadway. And, you know, BJ's and all those shopping centers, malls, this has narrowed the CSX right away. I mean, some places it's wide, in other places they have definitely encroached. Maybe they paid for it. You know, we don't know. We don't have the survey, but
So I'm gonna, yeah, let me
So-
just read.
but
Dan.
all of that,
the-
let me just finish, Bob.
Yeah,
The
I'm
land
sorry.
is narrow in some sections, and this
Yeah.
poses a lot of challenges.
Right.
You know, and that's part of it, where someone says, we just have a sidewalk here. Well, in that instance, it's because of all that development on Broadway that has taken place, I think. But in the end,
So, yeah.
we're gonna have a rails to trails. I mean, we're gonna have it's gonna be a great boon to Kingsbridge.
So I'm
I
gonna
just was
read back.
thinking about that today.
I have to correct myself. They didn't say summer, they said 2022. You're right, Laura. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to share the screen to
So-
show you the answer. So it's 2022, Dan. Not, it didn't
So-
say summer.
No, understood. So it doesn't, so it's not, this is the information, I guess, that they've given us beforehand. I guess the question I have is, you know, something that I'm curious about, you know, and it was raised at the meeting last night by another member. If they don't have ownership of the property by then, is the agency going to hold off on their submission to PDC?
No, because they've already submitted.
Meaning, no, I understand, but meaning if they get to the hearing and they don't own it yet?
Oh,
And
they've
I guess
already
I'm curious
handed it.
about that.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on that until July 1. If you're talking about
Mhm.
it's pulled, okay?
No, I just,
absolutely.
for
Well, isn't
me,
that
you know, it
between
was raised.
PDC?
No,
the-
I
well-
think it's a fair question because we do have to, if somehow somebody says, stop, we're at this critical juncture, pull it, we have to know. And so I will, so we're not applicants yet, we're not comments. We have not interacted with PDC yet because
Mhm.
officially because we haven't spoken as a board. Okay, that'll happen next week, one way or another.
And
And after that point, I
Mhm.
will request an agenda, right? The calendar and any changes to it, any changes to the calendar based on that consideration you're talking about. I did
Gotcha.
get confirmation that they submitted. And right
So-
now, what my interest is making sure that PDC has a community board perspective and voice on what's in their docket, basically.
May
So
I
I
add,
guess-
Bob? I'm sorry, Dan, go ahead.
So I guess we do a wait and see on that to figure out if the agency, you know, moves forward if they don't own the property, and we'll monitor it, you know, like you're saying with the
Definitely.
agenda and such. And then the only other question I have, regarding the resolution, and again, I'll take a more thorough look at the one that was sent out today, and over the weekend. But the question I have is, and you mentioned it, is it your intention that the pages that you have attached with the I guess the recommendations be incorporated into the resolution as part of the resolution?
Yeah, so I'm open to advice on this, everybody. They are incorporated. There have been times in land use when it's too complicated to put whereas we like this, we want
No,
these
understood.
conditions. Yeah, so they are part of the whole. They were voted as a package. The resolution
I think
itself
if that's,
and the recommendations.
I think if that's the intent, you need to say it somewhere in there that you're incorporating it into the resolution.
Okay,
If that's your intent, and
Yeah.
and I'm asking.
yeah, it
and-
is. Attaches. So we can strengthen that language. This would, of course, be done on the floor. Could you go up here? The final whereas. Thank you. Okay.
I think it would be it resolved if that's your
Yeah,
intention, if
right.
that's what you're trying to, and I think
Include-
you had language that you mentioned before, but
Yeah, so it says attaches, but I think includes in its support a statement of design. That's what I had before, and I tried myself for changing it when I sent it out. But that language has to be crystal clear that this is considered part of the board's voice. Okay, and thank you for that that push, Dan. It is correct that the modifications, I'm sorry, the recommendations and priorities as scoped by committee work over 7 months are at this point meant to be the board's guidelines, the roadmap, so to speak, for future revisions. But I do say here, they may be updated by the consent by a future resolution, by the consent of the board. And I do not want this to be the final word, okay, which is why I have in the second, be it further resolved, that they must come back for the 2 other stages of review. So one of the dangers here, everybody, is that we give them this nice package of recommendations, and then they consider themselves finished with Community Board 8. And I'm saying in the second, be it further resolved, that this is only for the conceptual level, and they must come back for the 2 others, that this will be augmented and possibly replaced by further resolutions. But I am going to strengthen that on the floor of the board, includes in its statement of support a statement of design priorities. If that does it for you, Dan, I think I would propose that.
I think what you're aiming at is something along the lines of is attached here to and made a part hereof, or is
Yeah.
incorporated here too. I think if that's your intent,
That
I
is,
think that's probably
that is.
something that you're looking for.
okay, thank you very much.
And that was my only other question. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
In response to the discussions that took place last night, I feel very strongly that this board would be sorely remiss if we failed to comment to PDC at this juncture and at every future juncture on this process, in my view. That the fact that they've changed it to conceptual and PDC is not voting, or maybe whether it's required or not, I think that we would be sorely remiss if we didn't have
Laura,
this resolution.
we have opened a door that I'm very proud to have opened, because they are welcoming the Community Board 8's voice here, okay?
Yes,
When they didn't have to. And that means that they understand our conscientious engagement with this issue. And I not only am very proud of that they recognize us as a special stakeholder among others, because remember, we were told that we were one of many stakeholders who would attend Tibet Advisory Group meetings, and we acted differently, and we showed them the difference that a community board review makes. And so now we have this. I think this is also a great first start, and it builds on momentum of the details we've seen already to refine our proposals as we go along. And I think we're in a great position going forward, and I will not be the one to be doing it, but going forward to be a strong negotiating partner, having established such conscientious review at the outset. And kind of like I said, made an entry into PDC with special invitation. So I think we're well set up. I really did want to give our board a roadmap that they can revise, change, but definitely something detailed to provide with our thinking at this time in 2020.
I tell you, it's been a very excellent collaboration and you've been the advocate for it, Bob. I mean, we insisted on getting the plan and they gave us the plan in advance. You had the meeting in May, then the resolution, we've had the time to, you know,
And I
look at
had
this
to
and throw it
drop on
around.
PBC
and-
and get them
and-
to apply, take our comment after their mid-June submission date.
Absolutely, and we have it in writing from them, and that they will look and distribute to all the commissioners our comments. So are there any other comments from anyone about this resolution or anything?
Ed
There-
has his hand up.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, let me go to participants. Dan, is your hand up from before?
Oh, that's all. That's from before. I'll lower
Okay,
it. Sorry.
David, okay.
Yes, thank you. I've got a couple of points here. I guess it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we, arranged to get the demo area, demonstration area off of Verbeline Place, all cleaned up before we did the press conference. And then lo and behold, shortly thereafter, CSX raised their ask on this. So in a similar fashion, I am concerned that we go before PDC without a contract, without it being owner. Because if PDC says, yeah, this is a nice design, this is a nice idea, it's a good idea, you should do it. CSX, if they're smart, they'll raise the ante again. I would not go forward with this until we own. There has been the question made before whether we can, and I think we should pursue that question. My second point is Bob asked me to come up with some language to put in here regarding the area below 225th Street. So I just have a quick sentence on that. That we are to complete the greenway and daylighting concept below 225th Street to the Harlem River to integrate with the Harlem River Greenway as a complete beltway to Long Island Sound and Westchester. Now, we may never get it, but we need to plant the seed that this process, this effort should try to go as far south as possible. And it will entail some politicking, getting our electeds to press Metro North to give up those abandoned railroad tracks. But we should have it in there because that's what we should aim for. We're representing the community, and this is something that we should want as grand a greenway and park area as we can get. So we should incorporate that. And finally, if we do end up discussing the details below, I'm not sure we're going to do that tonight. I have some comments there, but I'll hold until we get to that point.
David, I was going to add that 225th under recommendations. Everybody, as you know, the ULURP is to 230th Street. There is a clause in the CPC document, and it says, though not part of this application, the rail tracks between West 230th Street and West 225th Street are owned and still in use by the MTA. They will continue to maintain and use these tracks until at least 2013. This was passed in 2010, by the way, after which DPR is planning to lease the right-of-way from MTA for the purpose of creating another segment. So I've asked several times about whether DPR is in fact pursuing this, and they pushed me off to DEP. I think I would put that as a friendly amendment, and we will have to talk because I can't make any modifications to something outside parliamentary procedure. But on the floor of the board, we would.
Well, wait,
definitely
did we
want-
discuss it last night that we wanted to incorporate it?
Yeah, but it wasn't voted
Mm-hmm.
on as incorporated. So we cannot make changes to something the committee voted on last night. But we can make changes from the board, from the floor of the board, and you can make that change. I'll be happy to talk to you in advance about the language.
Okay,
that you
sounds
want.
good.
All right, a friendly amendment. Are
Yes.
there any other hands? Anybody have any comments? perhaps you could look through the other pages, you know, and it could be discussed next week. I don't know if anybody got to look through it. If there are no further comments, then we will move on to the other resolution from the Parks Committee. Any other hands? I don't see any. Again, great work, terrific, impressive.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay,
Thanks, Ram.
so Ramdot, you're on.
Hey everyone, good evening. We also had a very packed agenda yesterday. So after the joint meeting, then we went into parks, where the Parks Department did present on the restoration of the iron fence around the Van Cortlandt Park mansion. So the total budget for the project is 2.7 million, which allocated by Councilmember Dinowitz's office. And the goal of the project is to restore the Van Cortlandt Park House Museum fence, and also do some remediation of the soil. They found that the fence was painted with lead paint, and then led to a lot of rusting. So they want to restore the fence. They will be taking it piece by piece, offsite, restoring it, then bringing it back. And then the final phase of the project is to paint the entire fence with 3 coats of paint. And so the committee did vote and approve this project, which will also go to PDC for conceptual review as well. So thank you to Bob, first of all, for Bob Bender, for helping with the language for this resolution, which the committee voted unanimously for, sorry. So I'm going to quickly read through the whereas clauses and then the therefore. Whereas representatives from the Department of Parks and Recreation, DPR, appeared before the Parks and Recreation Committee of Community Board 8 at its meeting of June 22nd, 2022, to present a proposed design of the renovation of the wrought iron fence around Van Cortlandt Park, Van Cortlandt House Museum. And whereas the renovation of the badly deteriorated fence, which contains lead paint, has been a priority of the committee and of Van Cortlandt Park Alliance for several years. And whereas DPR representatives answered questions from committee members and other attendees regarding the project and assured those in attendance that no lead exposure would take place in the park, and neither would the heavily used pathway adjacent to the fence on the north be closed during the project. And whereas DPR asked the committee for its support for the project, therefore be it resolved that the committee supports this project as presented on the condition that DPR return to the committee if there's any substantive alteration to the design as presented to the community.
And I see it was unanimous. And okay, are there any comments? You know what, I don't see.
Bob Bender has his hand.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Ramdot, I think it would be good, and this would be a friendly amendment, if we add into the third whereas clause that the House Museum will remain open during the renovation, because I know that question came up last night. And, it may well be asked whether the House Museum will have to be closed while the fence is being repaired, and DPR assured us that was not the case. So I would suggest adding that as to the third whereas clause.
Yeah, so it'll have to be a friendly amendment from the
Right.
floor. All right. Yeah, I'm in favor of that. No worries.
Okay,
Thank you for that.
sure.
I don't see any other hands. Let me take this opportunity. I want to thank Ramdot. He stepped up to chair the Parks Committee, mid-year, which is always difficult. And he was bombarded very soon. He was a trooper and had every intention of continuing, but he was accepted to the master's program. I know you have 3 evening courses in person. So that's impossible. That is our loss. I always told you, next year's gonna be easier, first year's the toughest. So I just want to thank you, Ramdot, for giving it your all.
Of
And
course,
really good.
actually, carrying parks is actually really fun. Actually, that what's prompted me to go back to school for a master's in public administration. So
Really?
Mhm.
Ah, well, we wish you all luck with that. And now, let me just share something that most people do not know. Ramdot is my former student and from middle school. And the first time he and I would talk on the phone, he would say, Mrs. Spalter, I say, Ramdot, that's over, okay? Laura, and then again, he would say, Mrs. Spalter. And so anyway, it's been great to see you step up, and I'm glad that you still be an active member of the board. Okay, next resolution.
This is the Bollard resolution for the Hebrew Institute of Riverdale.
Okay.
Laura, do you want me to just speak to
Yeah,
this
sure.
quickly?
Sure, you spoke to the main people in here.
So 2 days ago, we received the request for no objection for the installation of security bollards at the Hebrew Institute on 3700 Henry Hudson Parkway. And David actually brought up the concern that the application was dated 2019. I spoke with the project manager today. And this is, this is something that DOT requires the institution to come to the community board for a letter of no objection. It was dated 3 years ago because it first goes to the NYPD for approval, and they pick out the security bollards together and go from there. That's why it came to us so late.
Well, the other element is that it's long since been done. Years ago.
These must be new ones then. These must be different.
Well, then there's a real problem with this document because what it does is it shows the old pictures of the plastic Jersey barriers, and the layout that is shown in the document is what's there now. I think we need some clarification on this then.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I was gonna say was, I'm gonna take all questions back to the project manager at DOT and have answers and have her speak at gallery next week if there were questions. So like I said, I'll take these questions back. But this is a new application and the next steps, after we submit a letter of no objection, they go to, they hold a DOT public hearing, they sign the agreement, and then they put the bollards. So I'm wondering, maybe the bollards are there unofficially right now.
Well,
and
Kira,
DOT
I read when I was reading through the information that applications have to be renewed every 10 years. And
Right.
it made me wonder, well, it wasn't clear. But
Yeah, I
whether
mean,
this
like I
is-
said,
that's
I'll
easy
take all
for,
questions
right,
back.
right.
I didn't want to waste any time due to this, it's security in this day and age. It's super important for our institutions to be safe. So I didn't want to waste any time and make this wait till September. So I'll take questions and I'll get back to everybody on the executive committee.
Well, the key one would be what exactly is the project? Because we are of the belief that the project was done years ago. And then
Okay.
maybe it's just a paperwork confirmation, which we can deal with, but we need to know that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll read the simple resolution.
I'm sorry,
There's a few
Laura,
more hands up.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Let's take the questions first.
Oh, lots of hands. We have Bob Bender, Ramdot, and Dan. Okay, so Bob Finuzzi.
Was this to come from the executive or from the floor? How is this going to be presented to the board? And why is it so time sensitive?
They need a response by,
July 22nd.
yes. And because of the summer and the,
And what wasn't it for, what kind of action are we voting on? It's not a DOT application, right? It's kind of.
It is, it
What's
asks,
it called again? A statement of, not, it's not a neg deck, but, we're being asked to provide a legal
A letter of no objection is
letter
what
of
they're
no
asking for.
objection.
A letter of no objection.
And
And
we
it's
don't
actually
know what
DOT
we're-
asking for it.
DOT, okay. So,
But we
and we're
got
gonna
this
take-
after the TNT meeting. I mean, we just got, literally, we sent it to you when we got it.
So this would come from the exec or from the floor? Maybe this would be better because we don't really have all the specifications now that it would come from the floor.
Yeah, there'll be a
Then-
motion from the floor, but we wanted to present it tonight because to have
Yeah,
this
you need some
discussion.
more detail about the address, about the location, any
They're
rendering.
all in the application, which I can share. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna be taking questions back. I didn't really expect this to fly so easily, but I didn't want to waste any time.
I had the same question, like, what are they talking about? I know that they were the first to put bollards there. I know it. It was, they like started something with that. So, they've been there for a long time. So we do.
These
need
may
to
be
know.
additional.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I seem to recall land use voting on bollards.
remember
I
that
wasn't
resolution.
sure which synagogue. I seem to
So
recall.
Laura,
Yeah.
if I may,
Yeah,
they came in front of us for a bollard project 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and we approved it.
I
I don't know
recall.
if it's the same.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same thing that they're doing right now. I have no idea.
Hmm.
But we did approve a bollard project for Hebrew Institute, and we should have it in our records, the resolution for that.
Okay, let's check that out. You know what? I recalled a bollard and a synagogue. I did not remember which one it was, and I haven't had time to, to look. So yes, but I do remember voting. I do.
I guess the other question, were they available to come in tonight to answer questions or
No,
not available?
no.
Gotcha.
Um,
Okay. But
Okay,
I would check the old resolution because we did vote on the Hebrew Institute bollards. And I know they're there. David's right.
okay, good. So Bob Bender and then Ram Dot.
Yeah, most of it has been said already, but, David Gelman is correct. Those bollards, there have been bollards in front of the Hebrew Institute for at least 2 years. So, and Dan has shed some light on the situation. So it's a little mystifying why we're being presented with this resolution of no objection when, as Dan says, the TNT committee apparently approved these bollards already. They are in place. They have been in place. So, if the issue is that they want to change the bollards in some way, we need to know about that. The photograph that was sent is way out of date, showing the plastic barriers from a few years ago. I really hope, I want to be clear. Nobody's questioning the need for security at the synagogues. We're long past that point. But we do need some clarification on what this is all about. And I really hope somebody will show up at the board meeting next Tuesday, because if not, it puts us in a difficult position. I don't want to vote against this, but neither am I inclined to vote for it unless I know what it's all about. So
Absolutely.
that's,
Yes, Kira was speaking today, and we'll definitely, these are good questions. I don't see any other hands. So let's move on to the next. Any other comments on this before we leave? Okay, we'll move on to the next set of
There are-
resolutions.
There are public safety resolutions. I don't think Ed is on the meeting. I don't know if there's anyone representing his committee. But I will share the resolutions.
As I recall, they were sort of vanilla with no reservations from the 5-0, right?
Correct.
I glanced at them quickly and I saw there was unanimous in favor. I didn't see any issues. That's what I always look for. Okay, 0 opposed, 0 abstained. So he will present these next week. The next one's 0.
Okay.
Okay, so looks good.
That's it for resolutions.
Okay, very good. All right, moving on to the update on the new office space, which is a big factor in why I called this meeting. Because unfortunately, we got word from our consultant last week that the landlord at 185 West 231st Street has chosen to end negotiations with DCAS. I'll give you a minute to process that because I've had a week. Also, lack of sleep over this. So that address is out of the question. I'm sure that everybody wants to know why, and there are several reasons. I asked for something in writing from DCAS and I got it, and I'd like to read it to you. Dear Kira and Laura, with regards to our pursuit to lease space at 185 West 231st Street, I regret to inform you that the owner has decided not to move forward with our transaction due to a fire code interpretation. According to the owner, a sprinkler system would need to be installed if the space was to be built based on our proposed occupancy and division of the floor into 3 separate units. Currently, the building isn't sprinkled and is not required to be based on the current fire code. Subsequently to finding out this information, our architect performed an analysis of the applicable fire codes and have provided the attached confidential letter to the owner's representative for clarity. Our architect does not agree with that owner's architect's assessment. However, even with our letter, the owner is risk adverse and was not willing to continue negotiations. They are targeting a tenant that can take the entire 4,500 square feet of space available on that floor. And their architect has confirmed that this layout, this division will not require a sprinkler system. The positive news is that attached is a market survey that represents available spaces we were able to confirm for your occupancy. Please take a look to let us know where you would like to review the survey. And if you have any questions, please reach me directly. And this is Sean Wilson, our consultant at CBRE for DCAS. Now, when we discuss potential new sites, I will be moving into executive session for that piece. I'm sure that you have lots of questions. I do have more information. Thousands of hours have been put into this project by both Rosemary and Kira and myself. And it's very upsetting. I think a turning point with this landlord is, this is a new architect with the new vision. When the landlord took out that huge vault, which was the big, postponement for us, because DCAS had approved that vault being there, and OMB said no, it had to go. Once he took out that big vault, that opened up a whole different layout for the landlord, because that was like an albatross, this huge thing in the middle there, and his new architect had very different ideas, and I think that was a big factor to the owner. Once we found out, I scheduled this meeting tonight. And we also immediately notified our elected officials, who we've been in touch with all along about the issues. Yesterday, Kira and I went and looked at new sites, which I'll talk about when we go into executive session. This is very shocking in that you may recall, I reported that on March 18th, we had a meeting with the landlord representative and DCAS and architects. And that was in March, and everything was a go. In April, DCAS was working on the new design. And in May, they were planning to finalize a test fit, so this is, this is just very sudden. So that is, I'm very sad about this. I know we all are. And now, does anyone have any questions? Bob Bender.
Laura, I think it's worth repeating or emphasizing that the critical factor here, I did not understand this process, but you just explained that DCAS, we all thought, or certainly I thought, that DCAS was the only city agency involved, and they were completely in control of this process. But as I understand it, that's not the case, and everything was proceeding smoothly or relatively smoothly with DCAS, but it was when it went to OMB, that's when the decision was made that the vault had to be removed, and that's what changed the entire situation.
And that cost him tens of thousands of dollars.
Right, and exactly, number one, that's money that out of pocket that he has to try to recoup, and number two, without the vault, the space was different and opened up possibilities. And also, we have to factor into this. We're in a different economy now than we were back when all of this began. So, I certainly have no idea what the landlord is thinking, but, he may have some options now that he didn't have when we started down this road. But the fact that OMB is involved and can tell DCAS something has to change, that was something I never knew until now.
The other thing that was explained to us is that the real estate market today is very different. Years ago, landlords welcomed 20-year lease, 30-year lease, the stability of, yes, renting from the city. They welcomed it. They loved it. Now they don't want 20-year leases, 30-year leases. They want a short lease. They want to raise the rent. DCAS was explaining it's just a very different headset today. So I'm just throwing that as well. But yeah, this is a difficult situation we're in. David, your hand is up.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear. They took out the safe and they got a big space and they decided they could find a better deal.
Yeah,
It's that simple. And I think, I think we should talk a little more with DCAS and moreover with our electeds to put some pressure on them, because I don't know who the landlord is. I don't care who the landlord is, but they walked away from what was, months of work and clear intentions and signed documents, and they are they're trying to take advantage of some technicality that our own architect said is rubbish, and I think pressure should be brought to bear on them.
Unfortunately, we were going for a new term sheet, but we don't have a signed lease. We did not have a signed lease.
Yeah, but we did have
the frustrated, the bureaucracy process has been overwhelmingly crazy, a mini Euler. All this time to take the vault out, not to take the vault out. It was months, and then the architect was fired. He took months to get a new architect. Then it was, this has just been a very difficult situation. So I appreciate everybody's patience. And David, any other comments?
No.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other hands. I
So
don't
Laura,
see-
I just have one question. What is our next step right now? What are we doing?
Well, I'll move into executive session right now. Let me get my little card out in accordance with the open meetings law pertaining to real
Well,
acquisition.
I can read it if you'd like.
I got it. I found it. We'll move into, we have to vote to go into executive session in accordance with section 105 of the open meetings law relating to acquisition or lease of real property. I make a motion. Is there
Will
anyone?
it, yeah, just to add, will it substantially affect the value of the real property?
Yes, because it's, we always, when we were discussing properties, we always went into executive session.
That's,
Yeah,
so Laura, I
it's-
understand that, but when you go to the language of it, what you're saying to the board or the exec is that you're representing, and I don't know if you are or not, I'm asking, that it will substantially affect the value of the real property. That's the provision of the open meetings law.
So, Dan, I don't know if this answers your question, but our consultants put together this proposal, working with other, brokers in
Other
the
brokers.
district. And they've asked that we keep this confidential because it has prices on here that are not public.
So, fine, I understand that. What I'm saying, that was something a little bit different. What I'm saying is, Laura, when you're presenting the resolution, it's not just that there's a sale of acquisition, there's a sale of acquisition and it will substantially affect the real value of property.
Okay, based
that's
on
what I'm
that
saying.
language.
There's two things, that's what I'm saying.
Right, based on that language, is there any objection to going into executive session? Anybody abstaining? Okay, so we have voted to go into executive session.
So just before we do that, I'm gonna ask anyone who's not on the executive committee, I can put you in the waiting room and bring you back out after the meeting. I'll just see, there was one person, okay, they're gone. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording for now.
Put it back on. Yep. Okay, so is there any other business before us? Any other comments? I want to thank everybody for your heartfelt comments and empathy on this. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, so I want to wish everybody stay healthy, stay well, and we'll get together next week. We'll see you on Zoom next week. Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night.
And thank you.
Good night.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.